What's up, guys? So I'm going to be showing you Darklord Melodious today. This is a really great variant of the deck. You've got so much power. Ostanato is a broken card, basically branded fusion, that gives you a huge end board. It gives you the ability to play through a lot more on your turn, and you get like 15 starters. Darklord normally has 6 starters, but you essentially get to add another 6 with the Melodious package. So adding can be as well, and you're playing with 15 starters in Darklord, which is absolutely insane. So definitely worth giving this variant a try. So first, let's talk about the actual deck list. So for the Darklord cards, we're playing as compact a Darklord package as possible. So just 3 Dejuti, 3 Golgoget, 3 Ixchel, 1 Morningstar. Now I'd actually say for Ixchel and Morningstar, both can be at 1 in this variant. It's a lot less important to have the 3 Ixchels simply because you're not going to be trying to trigger effects and you have a lot of consistency anyway. And I think the Morningstar nuke isn't as mandatory, but I do still like playing Morningstar just because, hey, why not? It's going to be easy to resolve this, and I've got so many starters that it's unlikely it's going to be too big of a brick. Then your Darklord spells and trap ratios, they don't really change between variants. So 3 banishment, 1 contact, 1 dance, 1 rebellion, 1 sanctified. Now Dawn Angel can be pretty much the same as well. You play the 3 Canby and 1 Nightshade. It's a nice package, it does a lot for you and it gives you more ways to play the game. But what we're really here for is the Melodious cards. These are fantastic. So you got 3 Ostanato, 3 Refrain, 1 couplet and 1 concerto. These cards are all really good. Both Refrain and Ostanato are full combo. Ostanato is obviously the best combo, ends on an amazing board, but Refrain is still full Darklord combo. Now couplet and concerto obviously are your bricks, but what's nice is both of these cards aren't terrible. So obviously couplet searches concerto, which is the thing, but this card is great because it's actually a generic fairy fusion spell, which means that you don't have to banish Darklord cards from the graveyard to fusion summon. So if you open either of these and like Dejuti, for example, or Dawn Angel, you are still playing the game, and actually you don't have to banish resources, which is a little bit more efficient for you. So these are all really good cards, and they're fairies, so we can play Herald. Now in terms of non-engine, we play a lower amount of non-engine in this deck, again because you have really good power play, so you can get away with it. If you want, you could shove probably another like 8 or 9 hand traps in this deck and you'd still be fairly high consistency. I don't think it's needed, and I think this format isn't great for hand traps, so I don't think it's that worth it, but it's worthwhile. So you've got 3 Ash, 3 Herald because it's broken, 3 Fua. I play 1 Cold Bite and 1 Droplet as well. Now I'd probably say that like if you wanted to like maybe just add a little bit more strength going second, you could maybe add 2 more Droplet as well into the main. But really guys, I'm definitely in the mentality of just kind of full send. We're playing for going first. I want to win when I go first. If I lose the die roll, you just need to sequence your cards as optimally as possible and hope that you can break their board with engine. And this deck does have some abilities to do that. But that's your main deck, clean 40, which is great. And another reason why I really want to stay at 40 again, I'm going to keep saying it, Ostanato is broken. I want to resolve this card every game, and so I'm going to play as small a deck as possible so I get to see this card all the time. Now, moving on to the extra deck, so to start off with, the Melodious package, play 1 Baka, 1 Etoile, and 1 Schuberta. Now, you don't actually have to play Schuberta or Etoile. You can play 1 Baka, you can play 2 Baka, or you can play a Baka and a Schuberta instead. That is fine, and actually, if you want to summon Etoile as part of the Ostanato combo, it forces you to have a discard, but I don't see that as a problem because Etoile is such a good endboard piece. It's a non-target bounce, and if it's outed by going to, if it leaves the field, I have a feeling, yeah, if this face-up card leaves the field, so basically anything but bouncing, it will float into another Melodious, so it would float into Schuberta. This format, Schuberta is also a really good card as well because it banishes from grave, so I do think it's worth to play these because you've got the space for them, they're good cards. We then play 2 Evening Star, 2 First Darklord, not much to say about those. Abar Oku, which is a really good card. This card makes you play a lot better into Super Poly, makes you play a lot better into Nibiru as well. It has a lot of advantages, and then because it requires a feed monster to summon, you play the 1 Beat Cop. Play 2 Condemned, again not much to say about that, 1 Herald, which is great, 1 Protector, and again this variant is really nice because Ostanato spits out materials for free, and so it's so easy going second to use Ostanato to generate like a Protector just to break your opponent's board. I would say there's a world where you potentially play SP in this deck as well, because again it's really easy to get that many materials off on the board off 1 Ostanato going second, and so you like Ostanato, you make an SP, your opponent interacts with it, then you make perhaps a protector, your opponent interacts with it, and then you've still got plays after that. So yeah, this card's really great. Summon Sorceress allows a Refrain to be a 1-card combo, which is nice, and Bloom, which is basically your way of resolving the Dawn Angel can be combo. Now the side deck, I always say take this with a pinch of salt because my side deck is constantly changing. It's not going to be the same for the old format. If you're watching this in 2 months, it's probably not going to be right. But my strategy right now is essentially I side out Dawn Angel Canby and the entire Melodious engine, and I side in these cards. These are 12 cards because yeah, going second, I see 6 cards instead of seeing 5, and I have 6 Charmies, so I'm fairly confident I'm going to see my Darklord engine. So I just want to break my opponent's board with really good non-engine. So obviously Droll, because it's a good card. Droll or Charmies are fine to play together. You can draw a few cards and then draw when you need to, so that you can punish your opponent from getting a good search. I've got the 3 Perulia. This card is good enough to be main deckable. Like, it's just such a good card. It just so happens, again, I want to stay at 40. I play the Dew Droplets in the side, 2 Impulse as well. This is another reason why I like this. Now, I did want to play 3 Impulse, but there's just not a good way to fit it in here. And you know what? Diversity in interruptions is good going second anyway, so it's okay to have just 2. 3 evenly because it is quite good, this format. And then obviously 3 Magic Deflector. Radiant Typhoon is probably the hardest matchup for this deck. Well, it's the hardest relevant matchup. Obviously, like Exosister and Banished decks are annoying, but the hardest matchup you can do something about is Radiant Typhoon, and this card is basically a way to say no to them. So let's move on to the standard combos for this deck, and I'd say that again, look, this is not always going to be what's going to happen in a game. You need to be able to actually react to what's in your hand and what your opponent's doing and things like that, but it's still useful to see what you can do off just 1 card. So to start off with, Ostanato. So we start off with Ostanato. You dump the 2 Refrains to graveyard to summon Barker from the deck. Now, when you summon Barker, remember as well, Barker can't be negated, or its activated effect can't be negated. So they can't actually, if they actually, it's just still going to resolve. But you're going to trigger Barker. Barker is going to summon Refrain from the deck, and Refrain is going to trigger to add Couplet. Then when Couplet is added to hand, that is going to trigger to summon Refrain. Now, obviously here you've just played into draw, which isn't great, but you can actually still get to Arbao from this point, so it's not the end of the world. Like, you're still going to end on interruption through draw, but it's not great. We don't want to get drawn. This variant leaves it's a lot harder to draw. But at this point, you're going to scale the Couplet, and then you're going to add Concerto to hand. And so this is what I was talking about when I was saying that you don't actually have to play a 12, because if you didn't play a 12, you wouldn't actually scale the Couplet. You could just go into your Link 2 and use that as your discard, and you don't need an extra discard, and then you're just doing Darklord combo. But I think there's a lot of validity to playing a 12 because it's a great interruption. So you're going to use Couplet plus the Barker and one of the Refrains to fusion summon into a 12. And also make sure that you keep either zones 1 and 3 or 3 and 5 free. That's going to be important later. But yeah, that's going to go. And then Barker is going to be chain link 1, and then you chain block it with your scales Couplet and Refrain to resummon out the Refrain. Then these go to your extra deck, and you're going to go into your Link 2 Condemned. So at this point now, this is where you need the discard. Condemns effect, and you add duty, and that's just going to be Norman Darklord combo. But before you do that, because that will lock you, you're going to use the Pendulum Summon to bring out the Refrain. So Pendulum Summon to Refrain, and then put these in the extra deck to summon out Beat Cop. And then Beat Cop plus Condemned are going to go into our bow. So this is really nice because obviously this card can dodge Nib. It can also dodge Imperms and things on your Dejuti if you have another discard. So it's just a really good card to end on. So you're going to normal summon Dejuti. Dejuti is going to trigger. That's going to summon Gold Go-Get from graveyard. And then that's going to trigger to summon 2 tokens. Make sure that you don't block your Arbal zones with your tokens, or you won't be able to link summon into the cards that you want. So you're going to link summon those 2 off. You can either go to Herald or you can go to another Condemned, but obviously I'm going to go to Herald because I don't need Condemned here. The life points are important. Gold Go-Get is going to trigger, and it's going to add Darklord Dance to my hand. Then I'm going to use Darklord Dance. I'm going to get rid of the 2 tokens, summon out Evening Star. Evening Star is going to trigger here, and that is going to set a banishment plus whichever trap that I want. So I set Rebellion. First, I'm going to trigger banishment to add Morning Star. Then I'm going to trigger Evening Star. Again, I can add another trap, or I can add Eggshell for a draw 2. I'm going to go for the draw 2 here. Shuffle that back into deck, pull the draw 2. Then I can use the effect of Duty, banishing this to add Golgoget into my hand. I use Eggshell's effect. I discard, draw 2 cards, and this is my end board. So obviously I've ended now on a Flowering Guitar bounce. I've got the ability to Rebellion to pop a card, and then Evening Star to copy that pop, or I can use Evening Star instead to nuke the board. Now, if I really wanted to, I could have actually search Contact instead, but obviously in this scenario I'm just acting as if my opponent's a noob with no nib, and so I'm actually just going to trigger about Arku to summon out my Eggshell on my turn at the end of my turn. So sorry, I'll just quickly do that now, showing that. So I'll discard. And what's great about this, by the way, is that you discard a card, then activate one of these effects. So what's nice is because you discard an act to choose to activate first, I can use a Bar, discard Eggshell, and then choose what I want to do. So a Bar, discard Eggshell. So I have the ability to copy another spell, which is great. That's going to come back and give me a pop next turn, and then Herald gives me a spell on trap negate. So I mean, that's like 5-6 interruptions just off one card, which is really nice. So as you can see, Ostanato Resolving does so much for your deck. It's a really powerful card. Hard for your opponent to deal with all of this as their end board. Like even if they have like Super Poly and stuff, it's going to be a lot difficult for them to stop you comboing, or difficult for them to break your end board. But now I'm going to show you guys what happens when I just have Refrain. So Refrain is still full combo. Now, if I open Refrain and Duty, it basically depends on what my hand is, but more often than not, I will normal summon Refrain just because I want to pull the Melodious cards out of my deck. But if I open like a high level Darklord plus Duty, I'll probably use normal summon Duty because it has a bit better lines when you have extra Darklords in hands. But yeah, you're going to normal summon Refrain. Refrain is going to add Couplet to your hand. Couplet is going to go into Scale, and that is going to search for Concerto. Now, what's nice about the Refrain line is it doesn't require a discard, so it's a little bit better when you're under pressure. But I mean, it's not a huge thing. It's not that relevant. I wouldn't even say it's better. It's just it functions when you don't have any other cards other than Refrain. But you're going to use this, summon out Barker, and then Barker is going to trigger as Chain Link 1. Couplet and Refrain trigger as Chain Link 2. So you get a Melodious out of the deck, and then these two go back into Scale. Now next up, you're going to use your Refrain here, and you're going to target your own Barker to dump Refrain from the deck to the graveyard. Then you're going to link these two off into Condemned Darklord. So again, this is lovely because you have Chain Link 1 Barker to revive this Refrain, Chain Link 2 Concerto to draw a card for you, which is obviously going to be great value. Then if you want as well, you can Pendulum Summon. I don't want that draw because it's going to mess up my combo later. It's not actually going to mess up my combo, but I want a crap card. I want a crap card to come out. Then you Pendulum Summon out your Refrain. Then at this point, you use Condemned to discard, and you want to add the Eggshell to your hand here. Basically, you Eggshell or Golgoget. Probably Golgoget's a little bit better because you might want to revive Eggshell at the end of your combo. But essentially, at this point, you're going to link off Condemned plus Refrain into Summon Sork. Summon Sork is going to trigger and summon the Golgoget to your opponent's side of the board, and then it's going to use its own effect to summon one to your side of the board from the deck. You then link these two cards off to go into your Herald, then trigger Golgoget to add Darklord Dance to your hand. Darklord Dance is going to fusion summon by banishing those two cards. You banish this and you banish this, and that is going to summon Evening Star. And then from here, it's similar lines to before, right? So you choose the two cards that you want to set. Let's set this and Rebellion, and then from this point you can use Banishment to search out whatever card you want. So perhaps you want to get the draw 2, you can do that, or perhaps you want to use Contact to revive, so you can do that. And then you use Darklord Evening Star to add Morning Star, so I have the nuke available for my opponent's turn. I discard 2 cards, draw 2, yeah, and I'm confident I'm going to see a fairy because I'm playing a fairy deck. And yeah, and so pretty much typical Darklord combo. So In this instance, I've got my Darklord Evening Star, I've got my Trap that I can potentially copy, I've got my Board Nuke, and I've got my Herald of Mirage, Lights Negate. So obviously less interruptions, but this is still a form Refrain, so I'm still generating a lot of resources, which is really, really good. So again, guys, keep in mind, by the way, that with your Refrain combo, obviously it loses to everything that the Duty loses to. So it's not as superior as a starter, but it's still a good starter. So you're still adding another starter to the deck. But so yeah, guys, this deck is really, really awesome. Obviously, I think Darklord Pure is a little bit stronger than this just because of interruptions, its ability to play non-engine. But this is a really, really good deck. I would say, like, if I was going to locals, if I was going to regionals, I'm really confident because even though I have got a couple of extra bricks in my deck, the sheer power level and ability to play every game means that I'm going to be able to just run over opponents and I don't have to worry about bricking loads of times in a shorter event. I think a really nice thing as well is that not everyone's going to know what all of the different parts of your decks do, so they won't know how to interact with it. It can be a frustrating deck to interact with because you've got a couple of cards that just basically say I win, like Ostanato or like Herald. So I mean, really, really great deck. So yeah, guys, give this a try and let me know what you think. I definitely think this is a great variant, and make sure you subscribe. I've got more master guides coming out. I've got a branded guide and a Magnet Warrior guide coming out, along with more Darklord gameplay coming out for you guys. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and I'll talk soon. Peace.